fundsupermart.com.
So what is your outlook on Singapore given Singapore's role as the financial hub in Asia?
I'm actually optimistic about Singapore. Of course, growth is still quite modest. We are looking at about 2% for 2017. But that still means to me that growth is resilient because economic activity is still expanding. Singapore is not as exposed to the finance sector as you may think. About 12% of the economic output in Singapore is accounted for by the finance sector. But the rest of it is actually quite well diversified. So we have manufacturing, we have construction, as well as other kinds of services contributing as well. So Singapore to me is a resilient economy and growth is still quite all right.
Singapore economic growth has been facing some challenges. What opportunities are there for investors to allocate their investments into Singapore?
At Nikko, we are focused on alpha opportunities or stock selection. So for 2017, there are three areas where we are keen on. First is what we call the new Singapore. These are sectors and businesses which embody the future of Singapore. And in this area, we'll be talking about industries like healthcare, aviation services, logistics, and certain technology services which we find are interesting. The second area that we'll be focusing on will be exporters, because in an environment of a strong US dollar, exporters would naturally be beneficiaries. Lastly, we are also keen on restructuring stories, because in an environment of lower returns and slower growth, companies would naturally try to restructure to enhance their returns. And we believe this will throw up some interesting investment opportunities.
Dividend investment has been a core investment theme among Asians. Why do you think Singapore dividend investing will stand out?
Singapore is still one of the best markets in Asia to harvest dividends. If you've invested in Singapore stocks over the last 10 years, you would have found that almost 70% of your returns would have come from reinvested dividends. Dividend yield is attractive, around 4% right now, and that's one of the highest in Asia. And we believe that's because the economy is well developed, the companies in Singapore are well managed, and they're able and willing to generate attractive levels of dividend. Also want to mention that the Singapore REITs are a very attractive sector, of course very well developed, and offering a dividend yield of almost 7%. I think that's quite an interesting pickup for investors who are focused on yields and dividends.
What are the risks that investors should be aware of?
The key risk actually really is interest rates. I think that has been factored into valuations to a large extent. Valuations are attractive, dividend yields are high. So actually I wouldn't be too surprised if the market is actually quite resilient to this risk.
How has Nikko AM Singapore Dividend Equity Fund performed comparative to the peers in Singapore market?
I'm happy to say that we've performed quite well. If you compare us over a 3 or 5 year horizon against peers, we are close to the top or at the top in some comparisons. And also we've won certain awards in 2015. So we're quite happy to say that those are recognition of the returns that we have generated for our subscribers.